All right, well, we've got a cozy little group so far. It's just 6:30, so we'll wait a few minutes. You may have heard me say Chenault may be either late or absent. I think something has come up for him. So yeah, we'll just hang tight for a couple of minutes and then we can get started.
How many is a quorum?
So far, we don't have a quorum. A quorum is half of the number of people on the committee. So however many that is, I think some more people will be here. I know Anita will not be here, and I know that Mostafa will not be here, but I think everybody else is expected. Hi, Albert.
Hi, Albert.
Okay, am I unmuted? Hello, everybody.
Hi, Albert.
Hi, Albert.
I didn't receive any of the packages by email. We're just going to use the website from now on.
Yeah, you can find everything on the website.
So are they not going to be sent out beforehand?
I don't really know. That's a question for the office. If Eva is still on, perhaps she can answer that.
Oh, hi, Brendan. Sorry. I did not know that I had to send it out. I thought usually Chanel did, but okay. If you want to have it sent out, I can certainly send it out the day before, at the day of the meeting. If you want earlier, that would be fine too.
Eva, in the past, we've had them as they've come into the office, and that's been helpful so that we've had time to review them.
Because I post them on our website, so you can easily access them, because sometimes these presentations can be a large file. So the easiest way is to open them from our web calendar.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Just a notification. I wonder if I can set a notification on the website, or just to be aware when they come in.
I do post them as they come in. Yes.
Right, but would there be any way to like just send us an email and say, oh, this one came in, look on the website?
I mean, I can. I guess the best way as they come in will be to send you the email if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the
want
reason
a notification.
Yeah, the reason is that sometimes it's important to do a site visit.
Right. Right.
See what the materials are like and keep them honest.
Okay. All right. I'll do that for next month.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Eva.
I also wouldn't mind setting a cutoff as well. Like has to be in by 5 days. No, like last minute kind of revisions that pop in.
I think that's probably not a realistic ask, in the sense that the office doesn't really have such control over that. And in the interest of seeing the most updated ones, I think we're hampering ourselves if we do that, because then if something is updated just a few days before, we won't have the chance to see it.
Sure, I guess that's fine. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Susan is absolutely correct.
All right. Well, Eugene is here now.
Right. I made him as co-host, and now
Perfect.
I'm going to make you as host. Okay.
Perfect. Eugene, I'm going to ask you to be the Zoom Meister if you don't mind, because in the absence of Chenault, I'm going to be chairing tonight, or at least at the beginning. So it would be, if you don't mind, if you could promote our attendees to panelists, that would be great.
Sure.
Jackie Pouduvion, pardon me for my bad pronunciation, Jackie, is presenting for the first two. So if you could promote her,
Okay.
that would be great.
All right.
And I think we should just go ahead and get started. We'll start with the first one, which is 29-33 Ninth Avenue. The application is for a painted wall sign master plan. So once
Okay.
Jackie is with us, we can begin.
All right. And Eva, did you make me co-host?
Yes, you are co-host.
Okay. Hold on. No, I may have to re-log in.
All right, well, I'll
Um,
promote Jackie in the meantime. then.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, Susan.
That's okay. There she is. Okay, great. Hi there.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year.
And
Hello.
to you,
Hi. Are we ready? Should I begin?
please. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I've got to share my screen. Give me a moment. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Is there a way that I can share my screen so I can show the most up-to-date presentation? I just need the host to allow me to share the screen.
Yeah. So Susan, I think you're the host. So you have, it's under the
Oh,
sharing
I don't think it's
menu.
done. You know what? I think I have it. I think I can do this. Okay, does everyone see 2933 Ninth Avenue on your screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Thank you for your patience on that. Okay, so hello, committee members. Thank you so much for having this second meeting this month. I really appreciate it. My name is Jackie Poudu-Vallon, preservation consultant on this project. This is 29-33 Ninth Avenue in the Greenwich, I'm sorry, in the Gansevoort Market Historic District, located here on this map at West 13th Street and 9th Avenue. And the proposal is for a painted wall sign master plan. So at the center, you can see the existing condition of the lot line wall that the sign is proposed for. And on the right is the photo montage of the proposed sign. Trying to advance. Okay, so I think everyone knows this building at the corner of West 13th. And you'll note that it has very prominent ghost signs, which shows you some historic remnants of historic signage that were on this building. So this building itself has a history of very prominent signage. Here's some existing condition photos, looking at the building from standing pretty much right beneath it to walking a bit west on 13th, and then walking to the farthest extreme on the right, heading toward Washington Street. Here's some historic photos of the building, which of course are all from 9th Avenue. So I don't have the same image looking toward the lot line wall, but this is the building in 1940 or 1940s. The 1980s tax photo, in which the ghost signs at that corner at 9th Avenue are very visible, and the 2003 designation photo from the Landmarks Commission. Now, just to give some historic context on the area, these are some historic photos from the 1930s, looking at a bit down the street from this site. So we're looking at Gansworth Street right here, Little West 12th Street, right here where my cursor is. And you can see this very large painted wall sign that was on the side of this building. Likewise, we're looking at 14th Street, seeing a very large painted wall sign here on the side of this building, and the way signage was placed on the front of this building, but also the very top of this building on the in upper left corner. And looking down Washington Street, also in the 1930s, seeing the prominent large painted wall signs on more buildings. And today, district context today. So this is, I think everyone knows these signs. The sign on the side of the Sephora. This is 838 Greenwich Ave. Another large recent approval for a painted wall sign master plan. That was one of my projects, incidentally. And this is looking down 12th Street from the High Line. Now, just to show you the drawings for the actual proposal. Here is a plan, roof plan for the building, showing you the location of the painted wall sign here. And this is the elevation drawing. Let me just zoom in on this. Trying to get more definition. The sign itself. Sorry, I thought my resolution would get better, but it's not getting better. Maybe my computer's slow to load. In any case, the sign itself would be 26 feet 6 inches tall, 13 feet wide, and set back 2 feet from the facade. Now the proposed criteria is that it would have the 2-inch standard black or white border within approved sign square footage and location, no regulation of content within the designated sign space, which has been consistently recommended by Landmark staff at public hearing for the last 5 years or so. The term of the master plan would be 10 years. The total sign area would be limited to 26% of the visible facade. The area of the exposed lot line wall in this case is 1,358 square feet. The square feet of the proposed sign is 344.5 square feet, give or take. And again, distance from the front facade would be a 2-foot setback. There would also be a tag, which may or may not be used by the sign vendor, but we wanted to include that provision just in case they did want to use it. The tag would be no more than 3 foot by 2 feet underneath the sign. So here are some more photo montages showing you the different views as you're walking farther west, and the views from the High Line. And that is it. And I welcome your questions and comments.
Thanks, Jackie. Does anybody from the committee have any questions? Bo, yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for being late. What is the term of this approval?
It would be a 10-year master plan, which is the typical master plan approval period that the Landmarks Commission is doing these days. At least for maybe like the last 5 or 6 years that I can think of.
Okay, thanks.
I have one question, which is just, can you confirm that this area where you're citing this sign, that there isn't an existing ghost sign there in any incarnation?
There's not. Here, let me zoom in on. Let me try to zoom in on this.
So there's no impingement of this new proposed work on anything that's already there. Okay,
No, there's no ghost sign.
thank you.
Yeah, that's the best photo I have of that. Seeing that condition on the wall.
Okay, thanks. Is there anybody present at the meeting? Let's see, we've got. Oh, Brendan, go
Yeah, I
ahead,
have a
please.
question.
Sorry.
I'm just wondering, Jacqueline, how did
Yeah.
you decide on the borders? The square footage of that. Specifically, I'm just wondering why you didn't fill the space at the bottom, because you can see it from the High Line.
Well, just get to the Highline view. Just for concern for thinking that the commission, the Landmarks Commission, would probably not be comfortable with a sign that long. We're just trying to propose a sign that we thought maybe subjectively was still scaled well to this portion of visible lot line
Mhm.
facade.
No, it's interesting because I've been looking at your photos and, they take up a lot of space. So I was just wondering why this is a convention of, having these borders.
Oh, you mean the trim going around the perimeter of the sign itself?
No, just not using the entire space that you might.
Just because the Landmarks Commission typically wants a
They
sign
want
that's
Border.
maybe large, but not so large that it overwhelms the facade. So this was the size that we decided to propose.
Thank you.
Also, Brendan, you'll see perhaps in the future some other applications where the convention of this border around the proposed sign might be violated in some way. And you'll see that when it starts scooching too close to the front facade of the building or too far down or in some odd configuration vis-a-vis the actual amount of space that it's taking up, it's good to have that.
Right. So it's aesthetic rather than like looking at historical.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Albert,
Hi, Jackie. There
Hi.
is a ghost sign on one of your slides there that just flew by.
You mean on the corner of this building, on the Ninth Avenue corner of this building? Is that what you're talking about?
Is
So here's
that
this-
it? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the building in designation. This photo is taken from Ninth Avenue. So, our lot line facade that we're looking at is around the corner over here where my little
I
little
see.
cursor is.
Yeah. So the
But
ghost sign is not going to be replaced.
no, the ghost sign is not being touched, but the ghost sign, I think, gives a good precedent for large signage on this building. But that ghost sign is on Ninth Avenue. We get to the current condition photo. Right, so that you're
Yeah,
looking
there
at
we
the
go.
building from Ninth Avenue.
It's not that old either. It
Yeah,
says
it's cool. It's from the 70s.
Yeah,
television.
like,
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
all right, I see that Pete Davies has his hand up. And if there is anybody else here from the public who'd like to speak, please raise your hand. And Eugene, if you can give Pete the ability to speak, that would be great.
Okay, Pete, you can speak now. Thank you.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Pete.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions. First, this wall that you're proposing to put a sign on doesn't seem to have any indication that there's ever been any sort of signage on that wall.
Correct. There's no ghost sign right now, and I couldn't find any old photos of this side of the building.
Okay, so the ongoing condition of this wall has always been just raw brick.
Yes.
Okay. Looking at the ghost sign that's on the corner,
Mhm,
the succession of historic photos,
mhm.
barely visible in the first two.
Mhm.
Never seems to have been a screaming sign, even though, as you say, the lettering is large. It was always somewhat underwhelming in regard to the actual building itself, seems to me. And then finally, I understand the requirement to have it not crowding the edge of the building. But if you could put up page 11. There.
Okay.
it really seems to crowd the neighboring building there at the left.
Mhm.
The separation from that is really minimal, as opposed to the space to the edge of the actual building. And that just seems off and seems to start overwhelming the building next door. So anyway, those are my comments. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Pete.
May I respond or should I wait?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, well, the Landmarks Commission doesn't, they don't typically get involved in how the painted wall sign would affect the neighboring building. It's possible the commissioners would take issue with the placement, but usually the only concern is about where's the sign in relationship to the front facade of the building it's on.
If I could, so do the neighbors ever voice concerns, or does that matter?
Yeah, I mean, anyone can come give public testimony at a community board meeting or a landmarks meeting. We'll have to see what happens.
Okay, is there anybody else? I see that we've got a board member from CB2 and we have Anna Markham both here. If either of you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any other raised hands. Peter, is your hand still up from your previous question?
Oh yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, well then let's move on to 350 Bleecker Street. Give Jackie a minute to find that. Oh, there. That was a quick minute. New York minute.
Right.
The application is to paint the storefront portion of the facade a white color, to install a bracket sign, and to install signage with a polished gold finish.
Right.
Take it away, Jackie.
Thank you. So there's actually been a couple things. Well, one thing added to the scope, one thing I should have mentioned originally in my description to your staff. So there's a couple extra things I'm going to be talking about here. But let me say hello again, pardon me, committee members. My name is Jackie Pudu-Vallon, preservation consultant on the project. This is 350 Bleecker Street. This is a proposal to change the finish and size of pin-mounted letters, pin-mounted letter signs that are already approved on this storefront, to approve the installation of a bracket sign by the door at the corner, to paint the exterior of this store at the corner of Bleecker and West 10th a white color, which you see in this rendering here, and to install a lock box. So this is a 1963 building without a style designation in the Greenwich Village Historic District. The building extends the full block down Bleecker down to the next street, and the store itself is here in this corner at West 10th Street. So here you're looking at the whole rest of the building, which is in this photo we're looking southwest on Bleecker toward West 10th, and I'm highlighting here the location of the storefront. And in this photo on the right, you're looking towards Charles Street. So here, existing conditions of this store, which is called Wild Blue. I should mention what they previously gotten approval for was these pin-mounted signs, which are backlit and have a matte gold finish on them. Just to give you some context within the street, this is the east side of the same block. So looking across the street from this block front building. And here are some historic, well, can't really call this historic photos, sort of, but seeing changes over time to this building. This on the left is the 1969 designation photo from the Landmarks Commission. And on the right are photos that I, excuse me, that I had to find on Google. So you can see on the top photo, this is what it looked like in 2009. And by 2013, this portion of the building was painted a dark gray color. So you can see that the brick itself, you can even see in the designation photo, even though it's black and white, you can see that there's a color difference, which is really the only sort of decorative articulation of this facade. You see that these bands that are created on the facade using a darker colored brick. And someone at some point between 2009 and 2013 decided to paint this corner storefront and actually extending to the next storefront, this dark gray color. And I think it's probably because there was some facade damage that they were just looking for a quick fix to, so they put paint on the facade. The commission did make them take that paint off, and consequently, as I'm going to show you, the condition of the brick underneath is very poor. But with this approval for this storefront, the commission did approve this pin-mounted signage and the removal of that paint. Here's a more close-up photo of what the store looks like now. And again, you can see this area is where the paint was removed from, where I'm highlighting above the storefront glass. And you can see in the process of taking off the paint, they really took off the finish of the brick itself. So it barely looks, it has this very mottled appearance. It doesn't look like a dark finished brick anymore. You can also see where there was some really haphazard brick replacement done with some non-matching brick, and also some kind of lovely crack patching here done with some concrete, looks like underneath where the sign is installed. And just to zoom in on that, to show you, really how unattractive this makes the facade look now post paint removal. Oops, sorry, go back. And so this is the proposal, which is to make a change to the pin-mounted signs. The pin-mounted signs were approved at 1 foot 6 inches tall, which is the maximum height that can be approved at staff level by the Landmarks Commission. They're not looking to change the height. They're looking to change the length of the sign. The signs, each one, are currently 4 feet long. They would like the signs to instead be 5 foot 5 3/4 inches long, and to have a polished gold finish rather than the matte gold finish that they currently have. They also would like to have this bracket sign be approved for installation here, at the corner and closer to the doors going into the store. This bracket sign would meet Landmarks rules, except for the fact that this building doesn't conform to the definitions for piers on storefronts, or the definitions of typical storefront infill that are within Landmarks rules. So for that reason, they couldn't give a staff level permit for the bracket sign. What else do I want to say here? Obviously, part of the proposal is also to paint the facade white to make it much more attractive and, remove the awkward appearance of the brick after it had been cleaned, and to also install a lockbox, which I will get to. So here we're showing you a sample of what the polished gold finish would look like on the pin mounted letters and the bracket sign, sample of the white paint for the facade. This would be this is an elevation drawing of the proposed pin mounted sign, which again would still be only 18 inches tall, which is the maximum for a staff level permit for pin mounted signs. But they want the sign to be longer. In this case, 5 foot 3 3/4 inches. I'm sorry, 5 foot 5 3/4 inches. And here is a drawing for the proposed bracket sign, which would be roughly 1 foot 3 inches tall and 1 foot 6 inches wide, extending from the building 18 inches, and have a polished gold finish, just like this sample photo up here. Now, to get this little incidental thing, which the Landmarks Commission may tell me is a staff level permit. They haven't gotten back to me yet on it. So I just thought I'd better show it here just in case. The store would like to install a lockbox so that they can put a remote control in here, basically, that the staff can access after they've already left the store. It's part of shutters that are roll down shutters that are or screens, I should say, that are operated remotely that are inside the store. And they just want to be able to access them with the lockbox so they can put the shades up or down without having to actually go into the store physically to do it. So they just placed it here, balancing it, between the wall and this planter. It's not actually installed yet, but this is the lockbox itself. Now, just to give you some, streetscape context, this is 95 Christopher Street, which is also 330 Bleecker Street, so a bit down from this building. Just showing another large scale building that also has white paint at the ground floor. These are it's quite a long building with a lot of vans and parked in front of it when I went to take photos, so I had to do this in pieces. So these other photos are basically the rest of the facade of this building, where you can see the rest of the storefront facades have been painted a cream color or white color. There's other buildings in the district where you see white at the base of the building. This is 100 Perry Street, 97 Charles Street, 329 Bleecker, aka 93 Christopher, and 365 Bleecker Street. And just to show you a couple of other larger apartment buildings, but also the same vintage as this building from the 1960s. This is 15 Charles Street on the left and 33 Greenwich, which also have disparate colors at the base of their building. 33 Greenwich actually has white and then a tan color and then a black color, articulating its storefronts as you go down Greenwich Avenue. And that's it. That's our proposal, and I look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you. I have one question regarding the color.
Mhm.
What do we mean when we use the word white?
Mhm.
Because in the rendered images, it's clearly a
Mhm.
cream color. In the proposed paint color, it
Mhm.
looks to be much more of a white. Can you clarify what
Yeah.
the color really is intended to be?
It's definitely intended to be that white Benjamin Moore color. Let me go back to it. So Benjamin
So
Moore
it's really
decorative.
not the same color as in the renderings.
Yeah, in the rendering, this looks white to me. You think this looks cream?
100%.
Okay, I'll have the.
I mean, you can even look, if you look at the white that's around the image, you can see the distinct difference in white and cream there.
True. Okay, we will restudy that. We'll talk to the architect about that.
In order to properly understand, then, what you're proposing is not this color, but is in fact a much whiter kind of a white. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Albert had his hand up first. Albert?
Yeah. Hello again.
Hello.
A historic question.
Mhm.
When was this converted from to commercial from residential? Was this conversion, I call it, approved? It must have been after designation.
I don't know that this was a conversion. I mean,
Well,
unfortunately,
I'm looking at your historic photo there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opposite.
photo.
This is the other corner though. So this is Charles Street over here.
Yeah.
And where the storefront is, where the two storefronts are over here where I'm circling
the
with
other
my
corner.
arrow. Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have a good photo of this side of the building. So I'll keep looking for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to prove that these weren't always two separate storefronts on this building.
It could be historic commercial. Yeah. Then this leads to my question about the well, they look like very large planters on the sidewalk.
Right.
And in this photo on the left, they extend across the entire facade.
Mhm.
The brick, does the brick match the original brick?
Yes, that was also, it's also a dark brick, like the dark bands of brick that you see in the upper floors of the building and elsewhere, yes.
And it is, but it is to be painted white.
Yes, for a portion of it, yes.
Unfortunately. Okay. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, just
Mhm.
for clarification, what exactly are we considering? You're moving the blade sign?
Yes, so the blade sign at the door with a polished gold finish on the blade sign. Making this where it says wild blue, these pin mounted letters, making the sign a bit larger in that it would be about 1.5 feet longer. Installing the lockbox on the wall down here behind this planter, and painting the storefront portion of the facade white.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie, please go ahead.
Thank
You're
you.
muted.
Hi, is it Jacqueline or Jackie?
You can just call me Jackie. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, great. Thanks so much for your presentation. So my question is, and I apologize. So my question is, why did the commission ask you to remove the paint?
Because they found that it had been done at some point without permit. I mean, not by the current tenants, not by the people who have this store, but as they were reviewing the previous application, which was approved to give them the signage that they have now, it was found that it was painted at some point without a permit. So they said the paint has to come off. The paint was not a grandfathered condition. If the paint had been there when the building was designated within the historic district, then the painted condition could have stayed. But because they had documentation that showed there was no paint there, that they were able to mandate that the paint be removed. And unfortunately, once that paint was removed, you can see why someone may have wanted to paint it to begin with, because of poor maintenance, bad brick replacement, a crack that was addressed with concrete patching instead of brick replacement and pointing. And there's some other sundry problems I can see here. But as a consequence of removing that paint, it looks like they also took off some of that darker finish that had been on the paint, and really damaged it more. So that's why the current proposal is to paint this storefront to improve its appearance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eugene.
Hi, thanks. Jackie, thanks for the presentation. I just have a pedantic kind of question. For the lockbox, what are the dimensions approximately?
You know what? I'm not sure, and I've thought of that right before this hearing. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't get the dimensions of the lockbox. To me, I mean, I could be wrong, but it looks like it's about 3 inches deep, about 10 inches tall, and I'd say 6 inches wide.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, we'll get those numbers.
Brian?
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Jackie. The brick does seem like it would need tuck pointing no matter what is done with the facade, the sides and paint and so forth. And can't help but think that that could go a long way for improving the appearance of that facade. And it seems like, although we do have a lot of other storefronts that are painted on that first floor, in this case, it was never intended to be that way. So And it's really a stark difference too, by the way. It's not like a subtle tone. So
Mhm.
seems like a hard change to justify for this district. But there are no other blade signs on that building, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Correct.
There are no other blade signs. And yet you mentioned that it's possible that it could be staff approved because the size of the blade sign and the placement of it and so forth are within the guidelines.
No, what I was saying is that because of the because of the nature of this storefront, because it doesn't conform to the way a storefront is defined and language used for storefronts in the landmarks rules, it doesn't conform to the typical pier condition where bracket signs by landmarks rules are supposed to be installed on a pier or within storefront infill. Now, this being a building from a later period than what's typically seen by the Landmarks Commission, the staff just didn't think that the location was something that they could do with a staff level permit. But
Okay, that's all I had.
the store itself would, they'd be happy to have a bracket sign anywhere really on this property. Yeah, I mean, they prefer it to be by the door on the corner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brendan,
Jackie, do you know when the, on page 6, the areaway and the fence, the moat was taken down? And the fire escapes, it seems like such a shame. We should really update this, it's right now
Do I-
60 building to,
Am I on the right page? Is this the page you're talking
yeah,
about?
exactly. So it had cool fire escapes and it had that areaway with the fence and the windows down below.
I don't see a fence. You mean this low brick wall defining
Yeah,
the
wall,
planting
sure.
bed? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's still there.
Oh, it is.
You're just looking
Okay.
at this from a different
Got it.
angle.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I don't know when the fire
The
escapes
fire
came on.
escapes as well are still there. Okay.
Actually, no, the fire escapes are gone. But you're right, the fire escapes actually look cool.
Yeah,
But
and
they're
at some
gone.
point we should update those because that's an interesting feature. That's a cool detail, whatever it was.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we have a few members of the public who would like to speak. Before we get to that, I just want to ask you, Jackie,
Mhm.
why I'm concerned that the aggregate of all of these changes really changes the nature of this storefront from a kind of, discrete village storefront to a kind of blaring, when you add up the bright white, the move from the matte
Mhm.
gold color to the shiny gold, the ask to increase the length of the pin mounted signs, when you start adding all those small pieces together, you kind of get a big piece, which is a much more aggressive look. And I'm just wondering, what the need is to have pin mounted signage and a blade sign, because it just seems like a lot of signage for a relatively small storefront.
Well, in terms of the signage, any store, I think particularly right now when we have so many empty storefronts, any store is trying to get more visibility on the street and get people to see them from farther away, draw people in. So that's why they want the blade sign. The pin mounted signage, again, it's the height of it is what Landmarks allows. It's just not what we're asking for today is not the width that the staff would feel comfortable approving. Although there's really no guidelines on that, but the 18-inch height is something they're comfortable with. Is there a cumulative effect of too much signage? I would say no, because I think the wild blue pin mounted signs are, the lettering is so thin. If this was a larger, heavier sign with much more bold lettering as their font, then, then I would think, yes, it would be a big ask, but as it is, I don't think it's a big ask. It's just more than the Landmark staff interpreted themselves to be able to approve.
Sure.
And in terms of the color, the color again is this store's solution to clean up the facade, make it look brighter and more appealing and more attractive compared to the condition of the brick currently.
Sure,
Back to those
understood.
pictures.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Eugene, would you please promote our public members of the public so that they can speak? We can start with Sasha and then Pete.
Okay, Sasha, you are allowed to speak. Welcome,
Hi guys,
Sasha.
it's Sasha here. I apologize if it's a little windy. I'm currently in Australia, not trying to rub it in, but I'm just here and I'm outside. But if you let me know if you can hear me, I'm the owner of the store. I have a few comments, and it may have, it was a few things that you addressed earlier. But going back to the first situation about the color of the outside, we are really open to any type of somehow soft white. It doesn't need to be a bright white. We spent so much money removing the paint off the outside just to appease, the committee. And we ended up with a solution that was just really, it was worse than what it was before. So we, for us, the store, and I'm not sure if any of you have seen the inside, but it's a really beautiful space. It's very soft, white, very calming. Everyone in the neighborhood has really said that they have loved what we've done to the area, the building, people that are part of the neighborhood. So we're open to a softer suggestion. If there's a softer white or something that's just like a shade over that can make the brick overall look like just, a light shade of something else. We thought because of the windowsills and what the store looks like inside, that was the best solution, but we are definitely not firm on the color of the white. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the signage. We are going with the other signs that we have in our other stores. As you know, the font is cursive. It's a little hard to read, more so with the brick than anything. We're a small family-owned business. My husband, my kids, we do this all with our hands and our teeth when we build the store. And it's been a tough one. The city's definitely been a little bit more complicated. And we have the police on the corner that seem to block off the half of our store with their barricades every second day. And it's been hard to be able to get traffic in. We're just trying to do the things, we have another 2 locations and they've been very kind to us, and the towns have allowed us to do things that have really helped us get people inside. And that was part of this process, was to just kind of keep the store synonymous with the color of the signs that we've had. The blade sign, we said we're happy for you to tell us where it goes and what it looks like. But we would love it to be, I guess, the same as what is on the inside, the same as what our other stores are, and just something that allows us to have more of a flow coming in from the street. The other thing about the lockbox, we bought it on Amazon. We can buy whatever size needs to be bought. This is relatively small, and we bought that color assuming we were potentially going in that direction, but we can make it smaller or bigger. We can put it wherever it needs to go. It's just for ease of, the security. There's been a lot of crime in the West Village recently. So this was just an extra measure that the store feels safe at night, that people can't see in. So the buzzer allows us to do that. I don't think there's anything else that needed to be addressed, but I just wanted to say hi, have my 2 cents, and whatever you guys can do to help us get there. It's been a long and slow process, but I feel like the store's open. It's been very well received. This is kind of the last step to getting it across the line.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Sasha.
calling in.
Before we continue to the other public members, I see that Bo has his hand raised and Brian has raised his hand again. So let's circle back for a moment. And Bo, please.
Muted.
You're muted, Bo.
I'm confused about the lockbox because it's not usual to have that kind of a thing. And, you know, if you need it, I'd like to hear why you need it, but I don't know what is the actual purpose of that. Why does it have to be outside?
Okay, Sasha, are you still there? Do you want to take this question since you're the owner of the store? She may have hung up.
She bolted.
Okay. Okay,
She's
so
there. I think she just needs to unmute.
Hi, sorry, I hear you now. I needed to unmute. So the lockbox, we have electric blinds that are used with the remote. They work on the door as well and have to actually be pressed once you close and lock the door. So it has to happen from the outside of the store as opposed to it being closed. We can't close the door without, so it happens as they lock the door, close and leave. We obviously have different people leaving and coming, and we thought that was the best solution to have the blinds go up and down so it's outside. I mean, we could hide it in the planter as well. We just worry about someone taking it and then our blinds are forever down and we have to get someone to call in. That's probably like the least of our worries. We can find another solution for that. It was just, if it was able to be approved at staff level, it just allowed us to, you know, we had 2 run-ins with serious security theft, you know, after hours. So we're trying to do all our things in our power to stop people from peeping in after hours.
Well, no, I can understand your concern about security. I frankly, I've never seen that outside of the storefront. So maybe it's something new that I don't know about. But, and as you said, there probably is another solution. So, I mean, I personally would prefer another solution, but you know, I sympathize with you.
We can absolutely come up with this. I can get multiple buzzers. I just, again, we were trying to just eliminate the complications and have it just live in the store and not, you know, have different people handling the opening and closing. But again, such a minor thing. That's more of a, if it was easy, we'll do it. If not, we'll find another way.
Well, I frankly think that, you know, that kind of a box might attract somebody who wants to break into it. I mean, I don't know if that's the best solution for you.
Potentially, you're right. I live in a very small town. I'm not used to these kind of different things that we're dealing with. But yeah, we can probably eliminate it. We could also probably just come up with something that's inside the planter that only my staff knows about.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Happy to take that off the list. It's not really a problem. We just thought while we were here and having this conversation, we would check.
Thank you. Brian.
Well, thanks again. And thanks, Sasha. I don't have any problem with the lockbox. I just thought maybe aesthetically, if it didn't have to be on the store wall, maybe on the planter box or something of that nature, just kind of not so bold or dominant on the store.
We did like one of my girls put it on the planter and sent a bunch of photos. That the planter seems to be the most visible point on Bleecker Street when you're walking to and from. So we thought that was almost more visible than kind of hiding it on the side wall on West 10. But again, open to, I mean, even it was for us, we were more so worried, like we could put the box on the inside of the planter. We just didn't want to do anything that drilled into brick or stuck to the brick that we weren't allowed to. I know it's historical. We didn't want to just touch the brick without any, you know, asking questions first.
Is that box electrified? Do the wires go through the box?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was a $12 box from Amazon.
All right. So that you do have a lot of flexibility. All right. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Eugene, I think we can go back to the public now, and Pete and Mark have raised hands.
Okay, Pete, we can welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you. Chad is disabled, so I can't put this link in there. But if you look at image number 3, page 3, which shows the entire facade of the building from 2 angles. It's a continuous, at that time, it was, and from the time the building was built, it seems, there was a continuous dark color at the base across the entire building. it seems that what we're being asked now is, and I think Jackie acknowledged that she couldn't find any sort of approval for the change at this storefront. So what we're being asked to do is say, well, it kind of got messed up, but, and we've lost all the integrity of the continuous ground level across, so let's just make it something entirely different. Even the white doors don't appear to ever have been approved. I don't know how that came about. That wasn't there.
That's, sorry to interrupt, but that's not correct. The door and the white framing at the storefront windows were approved by the Landmarks Commission under a previous under a previous application.
Okay, so taking that away from it, then mistakes can be rectified at some point as we move forward. The darkness of the base is the integrity of the building. And so I'll just leave that at that. Then the sign is longer than what is there now. And where it's positioned at the corner, it hangs so low, at least in the image, in the rendering, that I would guess that's gonna, you come out of that door or you come around that corner and bang. Well, I don't know, there's no indication of the height from ground to the bottom of that sign, but I'm sick.
The reason we put it at that height was because we were told that it had to be a distance between the windows on the first level.
Sorry, I'm not finished yet. I'm hearing somebody talk to me, but
my apologies.
That's okay. So I think they don't want to move it higher because then it'll mess up their new sign, but it's just too long and too imposing and in a very bad placement for pedestrians moving around that building, it seems to me. Thank you.
All right, would it be all right if Sasha responds to those comments?
Typically, we don't really have back and forth, but in this case, I think we should let Sasha speak for various reasons, including the fact that it sounds like there's an issue having to do with landmarks that we need to know about.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt the last conversation.
No worries,
the reason we put it on the rendering at that height was because they told us there needed to be an equal distance from the first floor residential space to the bottom of, like, I guess, pedestrian height. And we put it in the middle, hoping that would work. We were also told them that we were happy to put it above the planter box, so it wasn't even in pedestrian view. We're very much open to putting things or doing things at the height or placement that will get approval. We don't know what will be approved, and we're here to say that if there's a better placement for us, we're happy to do it in a better placement. We're happy to do it further to the side or a little bit smaller. Again, we're here to, appease what makes the most sense and what will be approved, and hopefully find a compromise so that we can have our signage, as well as, making sure we're doing it according to all the regulations. Nothing here is formal. We're not, feet in the ground that this is what needs to happen. We're happy to be flexible on the color of the white. We're happy to be flexible on the placement of the sign, all these things. That's why we wanted to bring it to the team to see what they would be comfortable with us doing with our request.
And I realize now I should have included an elevation drawing showing the height of this sign, but I can tell you that the architect did determine that this sign, this placement and height positioning was compliant with zoning. So, if it were approved by Landmarks, it would be legal for this bracket sign to be where it's shown on this rendering.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thanks.
Sasha and Jackie. I see that Valerie has raised her hand again. So please, Valerie, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that Mark Diller was one of the attendees, and I see he has his hand up as well. And I just wanted to, before it gets called on, one, he should be promoted as a panelist, and two, if he would like, and also to welcome him to the meeting tonight, because he is the new district manager for Community Board 2, and he'll be starting.
Oh,
Just want to make sure that we acknowledge that before he got to his question. So thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Valerie. I really appreciate you pointing
Sure.
that out. Thanks. So we'll promote Mark, and once he's been promoted, please, Mark, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, hi, I didn't mean to interrupt your meeting. I thank you very much for that nice greeting. And I'm eager to get started, so much so that I'm starting before I actually start work. So if I could ask a question, I certainly won't opine on anything, but if I could ask a question on page 8. And hi, Jackie, it's nice to see you in a different community board. So I guess I have two questions. One is whether that storefront infill that we see very nicely presented here, is it the case that the infill on the other retail on other parts of the facades of this building are different and not consistent one with another? Is that correct?
Yes, so this infill was approved by the Landmarks Commission in this color, including the new doors that you see the woman pushing on. There's only one other storefront on this building, and I should have put in a better photo of it. So you can, okay, in this slide, you can see that storefront in the lower right corner. In this, that photo, in this photo, you see it to the right. Do I have another photo?
Nope, that's good.
It's just peeking over here. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a good photo of it. I should add a good photo.
So there's no consistency that this interpretation would interrupt.
Right, and that storefront, it also has like a metal cladding over it, which I don't know where that came from either.
Okay.
Maybe that's just the bracket. Maybe that's just the sign itself, but there's also a metal cladding at the edge of it. So yeah, I don't know the story on that storefront, but I should ask Landmarks about it before the public hearing.
And
So
that's helpful.
thanks for bringing that up.
My only other question is, how cool is it that there are Japanese taiko drums in the window of this store? But I'll stop
Yes.
there.
It's a pretty cool store.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Pete, is your hand still up from previously, or do you have another question?
I didn't lower it. Thank you, though.
Okay, Brendan.
Jackie, why did Landmarks make them take the paint down? I mean, just
Simply
consistently with what
because
was there.
simply because there had not been a permit issued for the painting by either, I don't know who did it. Was it the building itself? Was it a previous tenant of this retail location? I don't know. Nobody knows, but Landmarks saw it and said no permit was issued for this painting, and the painting has to come off if you want to get your new storefront signage approved. And this, this new tenant, being eager to open their store, said, okay, we're just going to remove the offending paint so we can get our signs approved and be able to move in.
Yeah, it just seems like from what Pete made a good observation, which is there was a linear pattern that was important to the building. Just curious. It's just curious that
well, I mean,
evoked.
yes, but it's also fair to say that that linear pattern is pretty would be pretty damaged, interrupted by the state of the brick as it is, because the removal of the paint ended up taking away a lot of that dark finish from the brick.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, I see that Donna has raised her hand. So Donna, please, I think Eugene is promoting you.
I don't need to be promoted. I can just go ahead and talk, but thank you.
Okay.
To me, the white, whether it's a toned down white or a brighter white or whatever white it is, really screams to people to get the attention. So I don't know that you also need the blade sign with the other lettering on the building everything seems to be screaming a lot to get attention to this one area. So I guess my main, if the white is okay with the committee, then I would ask for that blade sign to go. If you can do that, because it just seems like a lot of branding going on here for this store. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I hear you. Thank you very much. Right. It looks like nobody else wants to speak. So let's move on to 238 West 11th Street. And thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Sasha.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move to 238 West 11th. This application is a conversion of a 3-family to a single family. We are replacing the front door, replace skylight, new stair, bulkhead, new roof, guardrails, demolish the existing extension, construct a new extension, replace the rear wall with new windows and doors. So Joseph Vance, please please
Yes.
begin.
Great. Thank you all. Nice to be with you again. It's been a month or so, I think, since I was here last for 232 West 10th. So let me share my screen. Here we go. It says host disabled.
Eugene, I think there are 2 Joseph Vance.
Oh,
Two
sorry,
Joseph
one of my
Vances
staff is
here.
on.
Yes, I tried promoting the other Joseph Vance as well, but I think they declined.
I got it. Yeah, I got it now.
I changed the sharing settings, so you should be able to share now.
Great.
Okay, we
There we go.
can see it now. Thank you.
Excellent. So this is 238 West 11th Street between West 4th and Waverly. Currently, it was most recently a 3-family co-op building, and the family that owned the duplex lower co-op now bought the rest of the building, and we're converting it to single family. The building 238 is the sister to 240. 238, somewhere back in time, had a floor added with a mansard roof with a very large skylight that you can see here. And on the upper right, the plot plan, we can see other rear yard additions. The 2 on the left were both approved not so long, one very recently and one not so long ago. So that's the context of this. Let me move down to the historic photo on the left, the existing photo on the right. And this is just the street, the whole street photo. So most of the work we're doing is in the rear. So this building has a very extensive rear yard addition that goes back almost to the rear of the property. So I apologize, it's a little hard to understand. The one on the far left, you're standing at the far back, looking down down towards the back of the house. The photo in the middle, we're up on top of that rooftop addition, looking at the back of the house. And then the photo on the right, you're looking at the existing rear wall of the house, which you can see has had a few alterations over time, and they tested out a few different window types. This is the view of the donut to the left, looking to the far distance, then the building closer to us to the west, and the church to the right of us. This will show you in a minute is our visibility. So we're adding a stair bulkhead. The stair bulkhead can only be viewed, the mock-up is in place if anybody wants to see. The bulkhead can just barely be viewed from in front of 249. However, the railing, the new roof railing, because we have this very deep mansard, it's pretty much visible from everywhere, which we'll show you. On the left is the mock-up, and on the right is the rendering. So we've done what we can here. We had another project in the Brooklyn Heights district on a corner where, because it was on the corner, there was no way to make the railing invisible. So we came up, we're actually borrowing the design we did there, where we eliminated the typical top rail. You can even see in the mock-up how heavy a top rail appears. So we did this as delicate as we could, and with a gray color to try to make it less visible. And then I'll show you in a minute the floor plan so you can see the placement of that and why it's here. This then is just another view further back. We are, however, talking, we're still in conversation. We are talking, we had a conversation with senior staff about possibly, we don't need the chimney anymore that you can see on the left, but it's possible that we may keep that, as it just helps, it helps obfuscate that view a little bit. And then the rear is where all the work is. So in the rear building, on the left is existing, on the right is proposed. So we're demolishing the addition, and the new rear wall that you're seeing here is 18 inches toward us from where it is now, to reclaim the square footage we had before. And then a rear addition at the garden level. And then the garden itself is being lowered 18 inches to get, we're lowering the structure inside the building, so we get, happens to be a particularly low floor to ceiling in there now. So we're lowering it to get headroom and making the yard the same level. The rear of the building would be brick. It's an elongated red brick. We do have some here and there, especially the neighbor has brownstone lintels on the windows. We're just using that same material in a more modern version around the windows. We are making the upper windows 3 punched openings and smaller, as the commission has been asking recently. This then is a south elevation showing the other properties, so you can see the context of the fenestration compared to the buildings next door to the left. This is a side view, upper image, the existing rear yard, and below showing the new configuration. This is just to show the change in level in the backyard. This roof plan on the left is showing you how that railing ends up where it is. We're setting it back 18 inches from where the roof becomes level. Then we have the shaded area is the 6-foot FDNY required path. And then the pinch point below that, that note you see where my cursor is, line of the bulkhead roof, that's where the bulkhead starts. It's a sloped bulkhead. That's where it starts coming out of that horizontal roof surface. So that is how the railing got placed where the railing is. If we continue down, this is a section to the existing building and the proposed. We are proposing excavating into the rear yard, as shown here. The cellar goes down 18 inches more than it does now, and then we're stepping down to get this recreation room under the rear yard, leaving almost 12 feet between the back of that and the back of the property line. Front elevation, we are proposing replacing the existing single multi-pane door with a pair of doors to match the sister building. We strongly suspect from what we found forensically on the in the field that it had a pair of doors originally, but we haven't been able to unearth a historic photo that shows this, but we are proposing that. Otherwise, existing windows remain. We are replacing the skylight with an in-kind, just a new steel thermally broken skylight to replace the one that's there that is in bad shape. And a drafted elevation of the existing versus proposed rear facade. This is the elevation existing from the church looking west, and the proposed elevation. We are proposing 3 lot line windows here just to let in ambient light. And existing elevation the other direction. and proposed. We are not tearing down the church. Apologies, that should be ghosted in this image. We'll correct that for the presentation. And these are just some details of the mechanical screening at the roof and a rendering. We are doing a green roof on the stair bulkhead. These are just some contextual photos of similar brown brick townhouses that have pairs of doors. This is a technical detail. And this is a drawing of the detailed drawing of the proposed front railing on the right and the balcony railings on the left, and material samples. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Before we entertain other questions, I have a question regarding that excavation for the rec room.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How deep are you going? How deep are you going there? I mean, you've got the additional 18 inches that you're going at the garden level. And then what's happening with that rec room?
Oh boy, that. Apologies, that is not on this drawing. I have to find that.
Right, that's
I know
why
it's
I was
three.
asking that.
It's 3 steps down. It's approximately another 18 inches down below that. I have to get that exact dimension. I don't have staff here right now to get that.
Okay, thank you. I'll have some other questions, but Brian, why don't you go next?
Okay, unmute. All right, so thanks for this great presentation. Really showed us a lot of details, and I appreciate that. And I really think that, you know, in terms of the question about that backyard, the removal of the old attachments is really going to improve that backyard appearance and the yard itself, rather than being so long and narrow. And now it's a regular backyard. And so I appreciate all that. I appreciate the explanation for the front door, and I see how that will match the neighbor pretty well. So really, I just have on your LPC 14, and for some reason I got it on my 13 previously, but that section through the building does show the sight line, and pretty clearly for all, I mean, from all angles, that railing is the most obvious intrusion into the historic streetscape. And I'm wondering what would prevent that railing from moving back a couple more feet so that it dips behind the vision line.
We looked at that. Our issue is the 6-foot fireman's path that has to be, you know, has to go side to side at the front and the rear. If I get to that drawing again. Sorry. Let me find it on my, here we go. So this, where my mouse is now, is where the stair bulkhead starts coming out of the horizontal surface. From that point to where we put the fence now is 6 feet. And we're back 18 inches from the ridge, if you will, of the mansard to where it turns horizontal.
So that's the 6-foot minimum, because that's where the slope starts going up.
Correct. There's 18 inches between that 6 feet and where the slope breaks. So we moved the fence back to
the slope of the stair bulkhead.
Oh, sure, correct.
Well, I guess you may know the details of that rule about the firemen better than, well, obviously better than I do. Would it be possible to raise that part of the roof and give them 6 feet of level if you move and move the railing back. It's just that it seems like of all the principles about historic districts, that intrusion of something new visible up there is really a tough one to accept. So I'm just looking for any
Understood.
way of solving that.
Yeah.
So that might be something to talk to the fire department about.
Right. Understood.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Albert, please.
Yes. First, about the existing extension. Did you state when that was that part of the original? I believe it dates from 1900, 1901.
No, the rear addition is not part of the original building. I'm not sure exactly when it was built, but it was not part of the original building.
It was there at designation. Do you know that?
I do not know that. I suspect it was.
Okay,
I think it's,
I'm
my
afraid
guess is that it's from the 30s or 40s.
Most likely. I have to disagree with Brian. I think it's quite handsome. And isn't there a particularly interesting window in that extension?
Let me just see my photos. I don't think we have a photo here of it. We just have a, I think we just have a 3D model of that I
Well,
popped up here a minute ago.
I saw it somewhere in your
Yeah,
presentation, but
it does
anyway,
have some kind. It does have a projecting bay.
The projecting bay, which I thought was unusual and interesting and attractive. At any rate, can we go to the front door, please, to the entrance?
Sure. The proposed or the existing?
Well, I guess both of them.
Okay.
The proposal is to replace just the doors, not the transom. Is that correct?
No, the doors and the transom. The transom that's there now is taller than the sister building transom. If I go to here, it's a little bit hard to see here in this. Let me see if I can just enlarge. So this dimension, whenever this door was put in, the transom was made taller. They probably got a standard size door and altered the transom to fit that. So the transom will match this. The proposal is to match this transom height and these door heights and this door configuration and detailing.
So that is a painted window. Is that what it is above?
No, it's glass. It just happens to be dark. It's glass right now. It just happens to be dark in the photograph.
But it will become wood?
No, it'll be the transom will remain glazed.
And there is a lighting fixture. Is
Correct.
that remain?
Yes, that will remain as is in the sister building. There's one hanging here.
Okay, that's my questions. Those are my questions.
Thanks, Albert. I have a few questions. One, can we go to the rendering of the proposed rear facade, please? Thanks.
Sorry.
I have concerns about the fact that this rear facade bears so little relationship to the front facade, to the vocabulary of the 19th century row house, other than those 3 punched openings on the top floor, which appear to just have single pane windows in them. Again, not part of the row house vocabulary. I'm just trying to understand what makes this appropriate for our district when there's just so little reference to anything. I mean, in a photograph of the third floor, the second from the top, you can see that even in the brick, there is like a memory of the 3 punched openings on that floor. And I'm just wondering, I mean, it's clear that obviously, you know, it's nice to have as much light as possible on the interior, but why these particular choices, including a cantilevered balcony, which I can't think of one other one in the district, which doesn't mean there isn't one, but I'm just wondering what this is all about, because it doesn't really connect with the building itself.
I see your point. This is, I mean, this is just unabashedly, it is a modern facade.
Yeah.
I tend to, in most of my work in landmarks districts, I tend to, where something is new, I tend to make it new and not trying to replicate the old. You know, it makes it clear that this was not the original rear facade; it's a new rear facade. And as you mentioned, it really is all driven by a request to maximize daylight on the interior. And so that's how that came to be. And then also, you know, this isn't referential to what is there now, but we are somewhat in context with what has become, what's been getting approved by landmarks, you know, on the rest of this block. These are pretty much the 2 on the left, well, the one to the immediate left has all glass on the lower 2 floors. The 2 on the furthest left that have most recently been approved are also large rectangular openings with just their top floor having the punched openings. So we were sort of drawing from all of that, frankly.
Yeah, I think, you know, what we have been seeing typically being approved at landmarks is when there are the introduction of these more contemporary elements and these larger window configurations, which of course radically change the, you know, solid to void ratio here. But what we've been typically seeing landmarks approval on in these kind of situations is an insistence at landmarks, which, you know, I think is a healthy one, that at least the top 2 floors remain somehow consistent with a vocabulary of the host building. And so that it's clear that there is this more modern expression, but that the whole thing isn't a modern expression. And, you know, this rear facade really seems to be entirely a modern expression. And I'm wondering if Landmarks has said anything about that.
They had, in our original presentation to them, the top floor was the same as the floor below. And they just asked us to change that to the 3 punched openings and windows that were not quite as tall.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll want to discuss this further amongst ourselves in our executive session, but thank you for that answer. And I see that Bo has his hand up. Bo, go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I just want to support what Susan said. And, you know, we're all familiar with the perennial problem of new construction in a historic district. And I appreciate your candor, and I respect that position. I totally respect your position that you don't want to do a Disneyland kind of thing. And if you're doing new construction, you don't want to make it, you know, cutesy and looking oldie and all of that. I respect that position. But I do think that in this case, it's just a little bit too much. You know, I think it looks ultra modern, and I think it has no reference at all to the front of the building. And I think, maybe you could address that, as Susan says, with changing your plan for the top 2 floors. But I personally think that something needs to be done. I think it's just too modern, and it's jolting, frankly, to see it that way. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Susan, if I could circle back to one thing.
Sure.
About the cellar excavation. We are, which is now standard procedure given what's been happening recently with the unfortunate issues with buildings in the area. Our SOE drawings are going to be reviewed by Don Friedman before we go to the hearing, which is a supportive excavation, which is how the contractor, what the engineers are recommending, the processes and procedures to take place to do it properly and safeguard the buildings next door, and how they will step by step do that process.
Right, so you haven't gotten there yet. I see.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? Anybody from the public? Oh, Brian and Brendan, I see you raised your hands again. Okay, Brian.
Thank you. Just from that last question about the excavation on on the floor plans that you show us with the cellar proposed layout, and then you show the demolition and existing plan. But that cellar and existing plan do not seem to conform with the addition that's currently back there, does it?
Sorry, where did I miss that drawing?
LPC 26 or your 27 maybe, or something like that. Yeah, that cellar.
So
right.
the extension right now doesn't have a cellar under it. So this is the basement, the garden level plan, and then this is the cellar level plan.
Oh, I see. It doesn't have a cellar under that basement.
Correct.
But it does have foundations. So there's
correct.
Yeah,
we're not showing, the foundation should show up here.
Yeah, so we don't know how deep those foundations are, and okay.
We have the information, it's just not on this drawing.
Yeah, okay.
We've
Does
done
seem
test
like
pits.
that was relevant, because you're not, well, you're going out about as far as the previous extension went to the back?
Very, very close to being the same. Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Brendan, please go ahead.
Hi, Joseph. I want to talk about the front facade and specifically the replacement of the front door. I'm inclined to say no on that. I just wanted to understand your position about why that should be replaced.
I know I should have some deep historic reasoning for this proposal, but I have to tell you that it's one of those things. Since the first time I walked up to the building, it just struck me. It doesn't feel right. If you go there and walk up to it, it doesn't feel like it is an appropriate original condition. It feels like what I think it is. I think it is a replacement of what was there, and you just get the distinct feeling that at some point somebody bought a standard door and stuck it in there, and then just filled it a little bit here and on the left and on the right, and changed the transom to fit the door. It just doesn't feel well proportioned to the facade.
Interesting. The fenestration does match. So I'm just wondering, so if you're saying it's not original.
No, it's not. The door itself is not original.
Okay.
But I cannot categorically say that it had the original, had the pair of doors, although it is a sister building, because we can't find that photograph. But you can see it's been the facade has been altered. These on the what had been the top floor, the third floor, the windows were made taller and skinnier, and they're actually, believe it or not, French doors. They're not even proper casement windows. They're French doors at this point. And there's a security railing on the inside, which is a very unusual condition. The tax designation photo, they were proper casement windows with narrower styles.
Right, right. And the other windows are
double hung.
Are they historical?
No, they've been replaced.
Okay.
The oldest windows on the oldest elements that you see here are the bay window and the skylight.
And do you think that bay window was the original?
Very hard to say. It's certainly, it's a steel windows of certainly a 20s or 30s era from the technology of it.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
All right, before we move to the public, are there any community board members in attendance or who would like to speak, or does Village Preservation have anything to say about this? Please raise your hands if you'd like to speak. I don't see any raised hands. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak? All right, well, seeing no raised hands, we will now move into our executive session. Oh, wait.
Thank you, everyone. Oh,
sorry. One, Jackie Poudevant. I see you have your hand up.
Hi, Jackie, you're allowed to speak. She just put her hand down.
All right, her hand is down now, so I guess that's that. All right, so let's move to our executive session. Thank you so much, Joseph Vance. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay.
Why don't we start at the beginning with the first application, 2933 Ninth Avenue, which is the master plan for that wall sign. Anybody have any thoughts to share on that? Bo?
I'm good with it. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, it seems certainly, clearly within the bounds of what is a kind of well-established practice and the rules of the LPC. Is there anybody who objects to approval of the plan as presented?
I don't object. I just wish it were longer. I wish there was less at the bottom. Yeah, just because of the verticality of the building. That's all, but I don't object.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. All right, well then let's move on to the next one, 350 Bleecker. I think, we'll need to have a conversation about that and about a discussion about to what degree the cumulative impact of all these proposed changes may be onto the streetscape. I think, Bo, why don't you go ahead and speak unless your hand is still up from before?
No, it's up appropriately. That building, there are actually 3 buildings like that in the village. I know where they all are. I'm sure most of us do. It is an extremely non-significant building, as I'm sure we all agree. That one on Bleecker is in a prominent location. It was built, I think, in 1963. To say it's not distinguished is a vast understatement. I frankly, I'm okay with it. I mean, there's some tweaking if people want to tweak some of that plan somewhat. There's some little things. Overall, I don't object to it because I think it's an improvement for the neighborhood. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Bo. After everybody is spoken, I think then we should just take this element by element. Valerie. You're
Thank
muted.
you.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that we've really got to think about the fact that the commission had them remove the paint, I guess it was gray paint that was cohesive with the other storefront. So at least there was some sort of unity, even though it was not historic to the building. So I had other questions of, or just kind of thoughts that, was the commission's goal to keep the brick exposed, that's kind of my thought. But that all being said, we also did not see a full rendering that showed the proposed white facade in the context of the entire building. And so that to me, I think was just, and I think that's clear. It's the by not illustrating that, we're not seeing like how incongruous it's going to look in the context of what's there. So, I just don't think it's right for the neighborhood and the building. The white, thank you. As well as the shiny gold.
yeah, it's kind of like jewelry. All right, thanks, Valerie. Zachary.
I just have a couple points. One, I generally agree with Bo. I think if we think about the purpose of landmarks and what we're trying to do, this is probably the last building in the district that it's looking to preserve. I mean, it's a fairly standard 1963. There's not much notable about it. But the second piece I would say, this came up, I think Donna made this point when we were on the call, that they're trying to draw attention. I would say, yes, they are trying to draw attention. It's a retail store. We've talked many times, people on the committee have talked about the retail blight we had for years, especially on Bleecker Street. So I think holding it against them that they're trying to draw attention to a retail establishment, really, I don't like that framing. I get that maybe the white and the gold and everything together might be too much, but I don't think it should be held against them that they're trying to make their store stand out and draw people. I mean, if we want independent retail to be successful, they need to be able to make the store visible. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks, Zachary. I see that Carter has dropped something interesting into the chat, so I suggest that everybody have a look at that. Albert.
Yes, I think that in general, this is one where the chair of the Landmarks Commission is going to say again, we have approved of many changes on Bleecker Street that we would not approve elsewhere. Okay, and that said, of course, the irony of that, Bleecker Street is maybe the oldest street after Christopher. Anyway, I hope you all heard Jackie say, I've never heard this before, that they are going to paint the huge brick planter. She said, unfortunately. And I will quote her on that. I think that it should very definitely remain as brick, that it certainly relates to the rest of this structure, whether it's distinguished or not. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Albert. I think we should take this element by element, starting with the proposed color change. And I think part of that conversation is whether or not the committee feels that any form of white should be approved here, given the strong mid-century lines of the building and the dark base that was originally anchoring that building, and weighing that against, the fact that light colored storefronts have been approved by the commission, but typically in smaller buildings, not ones that have such a strong horizontal, block long condition. So let's talk about it. What do people think about the white? Or any white, I should say.
I just am ashamed that Landmarks made them take it down, because it certainly was a better match when it was dark. But it's a shame to make them say, all right, well, Landmarks made you take it off. Now you got to paint it, darker again. And their exposed brick doesn't. Well, I guess it does match on one of the facades, but where the entrance, it really got trashed.
No, they're really clearly disadvantaged by a terrible condition, underlying condition. I mean, I think,
So
there's
that's
no
just
question about that.
One thing to consider when discussing the color, but I'm going to defer the color to y'all who know the building better than me.
Brian.
Well, I went over there today, and when I saw it, I thought it had never been painted. And when I went over there and looked at the brick, I said, this is the original brick. Okay, it's unpainted brick. So I came into this meeting thinking, well, I can't approve of painting unpainted brick on that building. But now knowing that it has been painted and then the painting got stripped off, and that so it's not quite the pristine condition that I thought it had been. And the fact that it needs tuck pointing and all the rest of that it does look pretty rough, and not all matching brick in the walls that are proposed to be painted. I would go with a creamy white brick. I would vote to approve that. And I think it would be a nice touch with the white door frames that are there already. It's always nice to have a little contrast there. So I could go that far on this.
How does everybody else feel about that? I share your feeling about that, Brian, but I'd like to know how others feel about that.
I agree.
Zachary, yes?
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Both.
All right.
Yes.
Andy,
and I-
Eugene, Valerie, how do you feel?
I said mine earlier. I don't agree.
I mean, I think I agree with what Brian was saying. It would be good to see a little contrast with the white frames that are there. It's just when it's all the exact same shade of white, it's very monolithic and kind of off-putting a little.
Andy, would you like to share any thoughts on this?
I agree with the off-white.
So it looks like, with the exception of Valerie, everybody is okay with white as long as it's a creamier white. All right.
Are
Now
you-
let's,
So are
sorry,
you-
Valerie, what?
Excuse me, Susan, are you approving the painting? Here I go again. Of
Go on.
Of that original and very handsome planter? If you approve the painting of the rest of it. Yes. It should remain brick.
That's a great point that you're making. And how do others feel about that?
Well,
Approving the
Planter was also painted in the past. It's shown in that photograph, one of the photographs.
The planter was painted the dark gray in the past. Yeah.
I'd say it looks like it's in pretty good shape, that brick, so I'm gonna concur with Albert.
Yeah, I think I agree as well with Albert. It's, the condition's much better. And it looks like there's other features down the block. Again, it's a little hard to tell without seeing the full building.
Yeah. Valerie.
Yes, thank you. Is there an issue on the table of proposing just the upper part be painted versus the entire be painted? Have we had that discussion? Is that something that somebody brought up, or did I hear?
It's something you're bringing up. I don't think anybody has brought it
Oh,
up.
I thought I heard someone someone propose that. I guess the way that it was previously. I remember the store that was there. It was called Slightly Alabama or something like that. Anyways, okay, that's, I guess, one proposed option then, would be just painting the way it was. So it's less of a big statement, but still will pop that sign behind it if it's just white at the top, as it was previously.
I'm concerned about suggesting that for a variety of reasons, including the fact that there already seems to be a lot going on that corner with the large storefront windows, these proposed signs, the planters. I think, you know, that the mid-century architecture tends to have this consistently rectilinear expression, and I'm afraid of just what breaking all of that up too much would be. But I'd like to know what others, how does everybody else feel? Should we just approve it as presented with, I'd like to propose that we approve it as presented, except that we are very clear that we would like to see a more cream color, not such a stark white, and that Albert's suggestion of restoring that planter to its original brick be considered.
I'm okay. I'm good with that. Both.
I'm good with that.
Are we suggesting that, like, what's rendered or something with a darker value than that? It would just be easy if we just said, oh yeah, that to match that, they're rendering.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. How does everybody else feel about just matching it as rendered as opposed to the paint sample that was shown?
We don't really know what the paint sample is going to look like on the facade.
Right, but within the application itself, the paint sample that they showed was a very white, whereas the rendering was a very creamy white.
Well, creamy is better.
That's what words to live by. All right, thanks, Albert. So we are, just to be clear then, we are saying cream facade, planter to be restored to original brick. Yes?
Yeah, yes, thanks for me.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. Valerie,
Very
did
good,
you
thank
still have
you.
your hand up, or would you like to say something?
I will be voting against this. We didn't see a full rendering with this, and we don't know what the color paint is, so I'll be voting against this one. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough, thanks. All right, let's talk about those signs. Let's talk about the ask to increase the size, the horizontal length of the pinpoint signs. And perhaps it's difficult to just separate that out from the blade sign. I think we should just discuss the issue of signage as one, because there's a lot of signage going on there. Brian?
Well, I'm glad you brought those two together, because I was going to say that it's a lot of added signage, and I would say, why not keep those? I think they call them pin signs, but the lighted signs that are on the facade already, just leave them the way they are if there's going to be a bracket sign added. If we don't have the bracket sign, then I could agree with slightly larger facade signs. But I don't like the combination of the two. I think it's too much. So that's how I would vote, one or the other.
Yeah, I completely agree that it's excessive. Albert?
Yes, this time I agree with Brian. And simply, I think you should simply say that we don't want those signs, the script, whatever it is, extended. They should not be any larger than they are, that's for sure.
So we are then inclined towards denying the proposed increase in the width of both signs, correct?
Or was there a trade that Brian
Yes.
suggested? Like in terms of like an ensemble, choose one, or choose option A or option B.
Yeah,
Well, I think we should say what we, I mean, I don't know that it's for us in our resolution to kind of be brokering a deal
Got it.
on this.
Well, didn't I hear you? If I can paraphrase what I heard you say, Susan, was that so we're offering one option to vote on is keep the facade script signs as they are with the bracket sign. And the other option would be larger script signs and no blade sign.
And no blade sign. That's one way to look at it. Yes. My question for the committee is, which of those two options do we think is preferable for the community? Zachary?
Yeah, I'll just say, I agree with, I kind of like Brian's idea of a compromise, and I also kind of understand not wanting to just put that in the resolution. So if I were to pick, I think we let them maybe elongate the sign and then no blade sign. I think that's, the blade to me is the most, stands out the most if you're looking at it, whereas just elongating a sign that's been there in a slightly smaller form for a while, to me seems less impactful. But
Right, so that we could frame the resolution as just a general statement that the proposal as shown is a little excessive in the signage department, and just propose sort of turn left, keep the signs as they are, and have a blade sign, turn right, no blade sign, bigger signage. How does that sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
Good.
Okay, Valerie,
Okay.
I know it doesn't sound good to you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to speak for myself, so please do not speak on behalf of me. But thank you. I would just say, I think that sounds fine, actually. And I would just quote from the resolution that was in the chat, that I guess back in 1991 that we were concerned about, whereas we are concerned about both illuminated and non-illuminated directional signs erected in a legally protected historic district. So it was a past concern of having both. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, and apologies for presuming your thoughts. Zachary, did you have another thing that you wanted to say?
Sorry, I forgot to take my hand down.
Okay. All right, that leaves the shiny finish. Oh, actually, if the blade sign is to be considered, what do people feel about the placement of that blade sign? There's clearly a willingness on the part of the store owner to relocate or locate that sign, not relocate, but locate that sign elsewhere. What do people think about that?
Was it not on the building before?
No.
On page, I'm looking at page 7. There's something there. It was just it was the windows to the right of the entrance.
It's like a wooden looking, I don't know if it's gold or
Yeah.
page 4.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, I'm on page 7, but probably on page 4 too.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
also on
exactly.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's wood. Is that different than a blade sign? Or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the whole time they already have one. They're just kind of moving it a little and changing maybe the size slightly.
Well, it's not there now. The photos that I took today do not show any blade signs outside. And I've got both sides photographed.
Oh,
And there's no blade sign out there.
Maybe it wasn't approved previously.
That's interesting because there is one in the photograph.
Yes, I see it in the photograph for sure.
And that's dated November, just November, 3 months ago.
Maybe it wasn't approved. Maybe it's been taken down.
Jackie's still on the call. We could ask her. But
In any event, how do people feel about the position of that blade sign or of a blade sign? Brian?
Okay, so I find that the square part of the sign could be acceptable, but the part hanging down below that by additional pendants or whatever chains, that really brings it down too low, I believe. I just think it kind of clutters it up. So if there's a blade sign, a brass color or a kind of a goldish brass color, I wouldn't want it to be too bright, but I don't think that extra piece hanging down does it any good. So I don't like the looks of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. How does everybody else feel about that?
Sounds good.
yes, I agree.
Can we just say match the lettering? Or when we just say gold, when we say gold or brass, is that pretty clear in general?
Well, I think we need to have a discussion about their desire to have it a shiny, to move from a matte. I mean, the blade sign and the signage, I think, are proposed to be the same finish, and I think they're asking for a shinier, finish there. And I do not feel comfortable recommending any kind of shinier finish. How do others feel?
I think
I agree.
And
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Albert.
it was not mentioned that the entrance, the doors of the entrance, those handles are also bright gold.
I don't think they're part of this application.
Well, the painting of the facade, doesn't that include the doors?
No.
Are you talking about the door handles though, aren't you, Albert?
Yeah. Aren't they part of the facade?
But they're part of the existing doors, which I guess were approved at some point.
Well, I'm not questioning the handles. I'm questioning that they're shining gold in the future.
Oh, I don't believe that's part of this application, not to
No, I don't
change.
think it is.
Oh, okay, I withdraw it.
Okay, thanks, Albert. Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was it.
Oh, okay. All right, so I think we have a clear direction here then. And what we are recommending with one person voting no on is cream, not shiny. Keep the planter brick. And regarding blade sign and increased signage on those two facades, sort of, you know, either signage as it currently exists and a blade sign in a non-shiny material, or no blade sign, larger horizontal sign. And Valerie, please, can you clarify how you would like your vote to be?
Well, if it's, I'm gonna vote against it.
Okay.
Because it's the white is the main part for me, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, so now we can, sorry, Bo, were you gonna say something? Or Brian, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I
I
was
think
gonna say,
we want to
good.
talk about the lock blocks, right, Brandon?
Oh, thank you. Yes, the lock box.
Yes, the lockbox.
Right.
Oh, yes.
whatever it is, it's gonna be temporary. Have you voted on these before?
Did they say
No.
it was temporary?
Well, I imagine that one costs $20, that they're probably gonna wanna improve that over time, but I don't know.
I just think it's just not a good precedent. Just, we don't, it doesn't, the
Yeah,
woman said it's not necessary. Should be willing to do something else. So let's just take it out.
Yeah,
the planter, that sounds good in terms
yeah.
of.
So
precedent.
is everybody in agreement that we should not recommend that lock box for various reasons, including the fact that we're not comfortable setting a precedent on that?
One other thing, back to the paint, do you ever specify the sheen or the gloss? You know, do you ever say matte? You know,
Well,
we want
typically
matte
that's
paint.
the presenter, and we should look at what was in that paint swatch as shown,
Yeah,
what that was, just so that we can, and it, we can write in just to make sure that it's not a gloss paint.
yeah. Unless CC20 refers to,
It's decorators white. I'm familiar with this paint color. It should be decorators white, not decorative white. But they don't specify whether it's matte or gloss or anything.
is there a recommendation? What were they doing in the 60s? Were they using matte? Anybody know?
I don't know.
I mean, it would have been oil paint, so it could have gone either way.
They had all the full variety of sheens. But what I agree with Susan is that we should say not glossy. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's already very bright over there. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to our last one. Let's start at the front facade and then move to the back. Now, I know during the questioning, people had varying thoughts on that door in the front. Who would like to speak to that?
Well, on the one hand, it does match the pane configuration. But I'm gonna take Joseph's word for it that it's not historical. And also given that all the windows have been replaced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't object to that door. Does anybody object to the door as proposed? No,
No.
okay. So the application is to replace the front door, replace the skylight. They're replacing the skylight in kind. So is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes, that's okay.
Yes.
The new stair bulkhead. Everybody all right with that?
Well, I have to take an exception because that stair bulkhead, the way it is designed, and I look at the section and I can see ways of tweaking that construction of the bulkhead in such a way that could give the firemen a little more room up on the roof. It's a technical kind of a compromise, but I think there might be ways of doing it because I feel so strongly about the railing that I have to speak up about the stair bulkhead. If it weren't for that, the slope of the bulkhead interfering with setting the railing back, I don't have any other objection to the stair bulkhead.
Yeah, I think your point was really well made regarding the prominence of that railing and the precedent that that sets. So I think I'd like to propose that we deny the railing as proposed and ask that the bulkhead be reconsidered in order to accommodate a less visible railing.
It's
How
such
do
that
we-
roof line is so important that to add something that looks like a widow's walk would really be a shame.
Yeah. So how does everybody feel about that?
Yeah, figure
Yes.
out. You know?
Yes, agree.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Moving towards the back. Well, first there's the lot line windows on the side. Now, let's see, are they actually even part of this?
No, I don't think so.
I don't see that they're part of the actual
No, it isn't.
application. So let's move to the back. I think that I feel that it's just way too contemporary, really not relevant to the district or the front of the building, and would like to see at very least that the proposal be modified in the way that we've seen so many others, where the top two floors
Mhm.
are paying some kind of an homage to the architecture of the period with 3 punched openings and, 6/6 windows. But I know it's not our job to design the building. So what do
Yeah.
others think? Brian?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I have to take into account that the entire rear facade is not original. You look at the current elevations of that facade. You've got some Palladian window up at the top. You've got large openings. You've got a whole mixture of stuff because it's all been remodeled who knows how many times. So, and there are none of those 3-part window layouts to preserve. And I would say that, at least my impression is that when the original facade with the 3-part windows are still there, that's when we have insisted that they be preserved. So in this case, we would be, going back and recreating something. And when we looked at all the neighbors, you see a couple where there's 3-part windows on a lower level, but then the top level has balconies with, I don't know, sliding glass or doors and things like that. So we don't really have much intact back there in the donut hole. So I'm sympathetic to the sensitivity that they did at least make the top floor a 3-part window. And so I'm okay with that.
And with the single pane,
Oh, without any divided lights? Yes, that's right.
Zachary.
I'm just gonna say, to me, unless I missed something in the presentation, that the entire rear facade is not visible from any public right of way. So given that, and given what Brian said, it's clearly not original. I don't have an issue with what they presented.
Eugene.
So I think that's interesting that in their presentation, they made great pains to point out that this is the sister building to 240 West 11th, and talking about how the front doors should look and so on. And if that's correct, then even though the back is not original, if it's a sister building to 240, we have the rear for 240 in LPC 10 in that slide. And in there, we do see the 3 window configuration. I guess what I'm saying is there's no, in the back, if you said that these were sister buildings, there's no way that that's reflected at all in the rear elevation. So there's just kind of a, they took the great pains to point it out when we were talking about the front of the building, but then they threw it all out when we went to the back.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point. If you're going to, it's like a halfway between, full change and, new materials, but respecting, in this case, the fenestration. That's interesting, because Joseph does have a good point when he says, I don't want to do a replication, because that's like a legitimate historic preservation kind of rule. Yeah. So, but like saying, yeah, there might want to be some, some fenestration replication, I guess you would call it. It's interesting. Certainly, if I had one of these houses, I would like to see that. Is it enough to for me to make a deal out of it? I don't know. But it would be interesting. It's good practice.
I mean, we have seen in the past the commission favoring a situation where the top 2 floors, retain the 3 punched openings and the 6/6 type windows. Albert.
There's always a question of visibility.
Right.
Since they, not just the structures on the donut, is it visible not just to those structures, but to any taller building around? It is also visible. And of course, I am concerned about the total destruction of the original extension. The backyard extension.
The two-story extension?
That,
So-
yes, that it is historic. And that's an enormous loss of historic fabric.
That's interesting.
It might not be original, but it's still historic. That's your point.
Yes.
I concur. I'm with you on that.
So regarding the demolition of the existing addition, how do people want to vote on this? How many people are in favor of allowing the proposed demolition? Let's just see a show of hands. Four hands in favor of the demolition. How many are opposed to the demolition?
May I suggest, Susan?
Mhm.
This is an although we feel strongly that this was, whatever, however you want to say it, that this is historic fabric that should be treasured or whatever. We approve a demolition. It's an although.
So that we're noting, yes, I think that's a very elegant way to handle this situation. How does everybody feel about that?
Good.
I'm fine with that.
Good.
Okay, so we're approving, but we're noting our regret at destruction of a handsome structure that's been there for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So what about the rear facade, folks?
Oh, boy.
Oh, you've been quiet on that. What do you think?
No, I thought I made it clear. No, I think it's too much. I think it has no, I understand, he was, the architect was very candid about that. He felt that, don't candy coat it, it's new construction, it's new construction. I think Eugene makes a very good point that when you look at the two buildings side by side, it's a gross mismatch. Albeit from the rear, but it still is, and we do consider the rear. I think that Susan proposed something that I could go along with, and along the lines of what we've done in the past. Just keep something for the original in the top two floors and allow the changes below. I do think that those single pane windows are not appropriate at all. I think they need to have something over something, but not a single pane window.
You're talking about what was proposed on the top floor.
No, they're proposing, if my memory, I think they're proposing on this, I think every window in the back there has single panes or the doors, right? And I think that's too much. I think on the top two floors, there should be some separation, some modified windows that at least a nod to the front of the house, and something that's closer, resembles more the sister building.
So the idea then would be to approve the rear facade fenestration as proposed, with the exception of the top two stories, where we would ask to see something more familiar to this type of building.
Yes.
How does everybody feel about that?
When you're saying the top two, are you talking about the top two stories with the sliders? Like on the left, it's like a sliding window system, and then on the right, it's
No, the top floor with the 3 punched openings and the one below them. The
Okay,
one below that.
okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Yep.
Sounds good.
I could go along with that.
Yep.
All right, any objections to that? Okay. Now, let's talk about this excavation for the rec room. We don't really have a lot to go on with that. I mean, they were unclear about what the depth of that was. I think they're still waiting for engineering guidance there. I feel that it would be irresponsible to approve an excavation that we don't have enough information on. What do others think?
If I can.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
No, I just think that these excavations always make me nervous. I don't think it's something that we really can approve. I think we need to, or disapprove, but I think we need to have a caveat in there that there is adequate something from approval or something from the buildings department or mechanical engineer that they may, structural engineer that they might employ, but something, we should have some kind of a caveat that says that we essentially take no position on the excavation and that it needs to be approved by the appropriate authorities.
Right, given the lack of information that, we are relying on the commission to verify that this will have no effect on the neighboring buildings and that it meets all applicable standards.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to say one thing. When this happens, the excavation, does archaeology get involved? Just because I just learned these were all privies. So something's could be there. I'm just wondering, does that ever happen? That you recommend, okay, if this is gonna happen, you're gonna excavate, but tell us what you find.
That's what the engineer is supposed to do.
Right, that's part of the
Engineer's supposed
engineer's
to-
report.
If they find something like, a pipe or anything that might have, fallen into the privy. Or,
Yeah, I think what Brendan's asking is, right, if during the actual excavation, they find an artifact, is that what you're asking?
yeah, that's right. Yes.
Like a bone or a
Mhm.
pipe or something?
Yeah. Just because they were used for privies, there could be interesting stuff there.
We've done so many of these. I'm sure the language is well established that we're scared.
Mm.
Right, the established language really concerns potential impact to neighboring properties, not so much archaeological artifacts. It's an interesting question, Brendan. It is not something that has been addressed before in our.
No, that is
but
interesting.
it's interesting to contemplate.
I don't think it's going to put them.
I think, would be interesting. I think we should research what happens at landmarks, at the commission, in terms of discoveries of, archaeological artifacts. Where does that process go?
And it's not like Rome where you have to just stop completely. You just let them know if you find something, give it to the historical, give it to the museum. But yeah, who knows what to do?
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Brian.
that's it.
Well, I was just going to note that you're correct that we never get the structural engineering kind of reports or details at this stage. But we always include that language that
Right.
before any excavation, there has to be a structural report, investigation, and all of the proper approvals.
Yeah.
And underground streams, that's always a question.
That would certainly be part of an engineer's report.
Yes.
One hopes. All right, Eugene.
So this is a question, I guess, for you, Susan, or in general. I wondered if, this is, I don't think this is as egregious as the application we saw last month where they were combining 2 row houses together. But this is yet another application where, individual units of housing are being taken out of the village, right? Where this used to be a multifamily home and now it's going to be a single family. Is there room in the resolution for us to, opine as to, the continuing effect of this on the fabric of the village, that this is the erosion of housing?
Well, unfortunately, it's not really a landmarks issue, which is kind of what our purview is. And while it is a very important issue, it's not actually a landmarks issue. And in fact, if we were going to talk landmarks, I mean, it was originally a single family house.
Back in the, yeah.
So it's a sticky wicket to include that because I think it would just boomerang on us.
However, the designation report certainly talks about culture. It certainly talks about the culture of the village. And if there's a culture of the village for having, in 1966, for having, multi-apartment transition from single family to multi-apartment townhouses, then, this is always one thing that has struck me is that, okay, use can't be argued, but what if it's in the designation report? Like when all the artists left Soho, it's like, yeah, in the designation report, it said notable for its historical transformation. But it also says in the charter, can't control use. So I don't know. It would be worth mentioning as part of, it is a change in, what's the language they use? Character and setting.
I think we should make that part of it, a larger conversation, perhaps not part of this resolution. I think it's an interesting and worthy discussion to have, is how do we kind of synthesize our concerns about housing being lost with our landmarks concerns. But I think, I think we should definitely have further conversations about this, but I don't think this resolution is necessarily the place to pioneer the language for it.
And they are changing. They're changing their philosophy to become more interested in cultural preservation over architectural preservation. At least that's what they're saying right now at Landmarks. So it'd be time to actually think about this.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see if there were any other. Does anybody have any, I think in terms of the other alterations to the rear facade and the proposal to the rear facade, are there any other aspects to the rear facade as proposed that concern anybody, the cantilevered balcony or any other aspect? No.
No.
Okay, well then I think we've covered all the aspects of the application. Is there anything else anybody'd like to bring up? Regarding the 5G, Valerie, yes.
I was just about to ask about the 5G, so go ahead.
Regarding the 5G towers, that is on the agenda for Thursday's meeting. So Chenault will be at this meeting on the Thursday meeting, and that is on the agenda. I spoke with Chenault just right before this meeting when he let me know that he wasn't available to chair. And yeah, he said, make sure to let everybody know that the 5G towers will be part of Thursday's conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thanks.
Very good. All right.
See you, everyone.
Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome. Great to see everybody. Happy New Year to everybody.
Welcome, Mark.
Also, thanks.
that?
Said
See you
welcome, Mark.
Thursday.
Mark.
All right.
Good job,
Good
Susan.
night. Good night.
Good night.